Greetings, BookTube. This Tag Tuesday, I'm taking you to ChangChui Creative Park. You're going to see some sculptures, some um, shadow puppetry, all kinds of great art. And while you're looking at that, I'm answering the tag questions from blizzards, tornadoes, uh, hurricanes, tornadoes, and blizzards. Oh my. Um, Thanks to Sui at Book Banter for tagging me on that one. Let me get you started over here. And number one is, how would these sort of, here you can see this park is built around a abandoned airplane that they turned into a fancy restaurant. Okay, so how does a disaster such as this affect a plot? I remember when I was in seventh grade, we had an English teacher who told us that there were three conflicts. There was man versus man versus God, and man versus nature. Now, that is an extremely reductive model of all literature. However, there is something in it. And so this would be the man versus nature, which, of course, today we would say people versus nature. Trope, I guess is what they call these things today. Sometimes they bring people together and sometimes they divide them, as we shall see presently. Number two, name a time that a character was impacted by one of these weather events. Actually, in the book I'm just finishing, we need new names. The children who are running around the slums there in Africa have various fun games that they like to play, and one of them is sort of running down and chasing into these various dust devils, which are like little mini tornadoes that you get in the desert with the sands whipping around. There you got a good look at the board game cafe that they have there as well as the murals, etc., etc. Number three, have I been impacted by these sorts of things myself? Yes, I experienced a flood in Africa. I experienced a big disruption to my life due to Katrina, not because I was there, but because I was activated to go as a relief agent for what we call Crisis Corps, which is part of Peace Corps, to help out with the evacuations and other operations down in Louisiana, which I did, and interrupted my Master's Social Work Studies. Although my time down there was not overly long, by the time I got back, it put me a year back into my MSW studies, so I didn't end up finishing. But worse than that, the main impact was that my friend was about to have his marriage and his wedding, and I was going to miss that. Now, I called him and I said, listen, there's this thing. They want me to help out. I'd like to do it, but it would mean missing the wedding. So I totally am happy. I will not do it. I will come to your wedding. I'll be happy to do that. He's like, no problem at all. You got to go do that. It's the kind of person you are. And so I had his permission, but unfortunately, that was the end of the friendship. He said it was his new wife that couldn't forgive me. But anyway, that was sad. So it's funny all the different ways that these sorts of things can impact you. I did write a novel about that book called Shoot the Wind. Not a novel, I guess a memoir. I usually never write anything from real life, but that was important enough that I felt it was a story that needed to be told. However, the book didn't really go anywhere, and it's in limbo now. All right, so with all the others. Number four, what would I read if I were sort of snowed in or, impacted by one of these events? I think it's meant to be sort of a comfort read situation, but I don't know that I comfort read. I think for comfort, I do stand-up comedy. I listen to stand-up comedy. But actually, when I'm snowed in or have a long, time frame to fill, I like to read literary criticism and really get deep into a book and, take lots of notes and write down ideas and that kind of stuff. just really make the day go, and you don't always have those long stretches of time or mental bandwidth to do that sort of literary criticism as much as I would like. As you see, the restaurants, this is the Spirit House, which is something that all Thai, not all, but almost all Thai installations have this Spirit House, that little tiny house there at the end there that they make offerings to. Number 5 is someone who overcame one of these weather events. Well, I took a class in undergrad called History of the Future, which was great. And we looked at all these different future scenarios, most of which were dystopic, unfortunately. I can't stand dystopia. It's a genre I do not read or watch if I can help it. There was maybe one utopic one and maybe a couple funny ones like we saw Sleeper. But anyway, of all the different futures, some of man-made, some nature, and some like, global warming, a bit of both. They tended to, create these future societies. Some were corporate, some were, almost feudal. I like the really localized ones like Ecotopia or, is it Chronicles for Leibowitz? Anyway, like there's almost like a monastery one where they're keeping knowledge alive in these monasteries. So those are my favorite scenarios to come out of those kind of disasters. And for my paper for that, I wrote a short story about not a global warming, but a nuclear winter scenario, and a small survivor community in Australia that chose to stop procreating. Okay, 6 is what would be my 3 evacuation books. I'm stealing from my tag that I did, sort of the books on a desert island thing, or books in your bunker one. I would take the Bardo, first of all, to help me die. That's the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I would take a Scratch and Sniff book because I probably have to eat it, so at least you could smell good. And I think I'd take Walk in the Woods over a practical guide to nature survival. There's that beautiful Spirit House again. You see the red sodas that apparently the spirits like. That's the big main gate with the big dog there. So rather than trying to survive, I just don't think I would like to survive. So I'll take Walk in the Woods, about a failed attempt to hike the Appalachian Trail by Bill Bryson. Very funny. And I also failed to hike the Appalachian Trail. So it would be a fun way to go out in the woods there, reading Walk in the Woods, and the Bardo, and eating my Scratch and Sniffs. 7, would I write a book with hurricane, tornado, blizzard, or fire? Not fire. Fire truly scares me. Not blizzards. I can't stand the cold. I just don't know as much about tornadoes, so I'd probably use a hurricane in my own writing. And as I said, I wrote that book, Shoot the Wind. Okay, 8 is something about TBRs. If I have any TBRs with weather events, I don't do TBRs, and I don't have bookshelves. But I am trying to get into this secret Vonnegut reading group. Now, as you know, Vonnegut is all dystopias, but he gets an exemption from me because he's just so funny and crazy. For every Ice Nine civilization destroying thing, he's got this crazy religion, Buchanism, that he invents. So probably I'll be reading a Vonnegut, if I had to guess, would be my next read that includes some kind of disaster. 9 is my tags, which I will put down in the show notes. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed having a look at this culture park, ChangChui. I was so excited to finally see a shadow puppet show. The dancing was cool too, but the art exhibits were great. The food was great. As a matter of fact, I had a pizza, and there was an Italian family there, and they said it was a good pizza. So, and everyone, fun time. Everyone there was awesome. The main stage was that horrible pop music that they always have, but what are you going to do? And yeah, so hope you've been enjoying me trying to incorporate some of these Thai backgrounds to these little talks that I've been doing. And I'll see you in a couple of days for Poetry Thursday, if not before. And look out soon for the discussion video on We Need New Names.